Hi everyone, this is OGV Energy Live, coming to you live from a very tropical, sunny and warm Aberdeen. Maybe not. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to the show. My name is Eric Doyle and this is our Well Management Edition, broadcasting to you here from Aberdeen across LinkedIn, X, Twitter, whatever you call it, YouTube and many other platforms. And our aim is to give you the very best in news and insight from across the energy sector by bringing to life the UK's leading energy industry publication, of course, OGV Energy Magazine. If you are a regular viewer, it's good to have you with us again. Thank you for coming back. Let me just turn on the chat here. 1 second, get that going. All we ask is that you drop in and let us know where you are in the world. If you've seen the show before, you'll know that this is all about us bringing you amazing guests where you can find out all the latest insight on a particular sector, a particular topic. If you're new to the show, you get a chance to interact with our guests, and we'd love for you to do that. So please, these people are at the very top of their game, and we'd love for you to interact with them. Simply do what Andrew Slesser has done. Good afternoon and happy Burns Day, says Andrew Slesser. Let us know where you are in the world. Let us know who you work with in the energy sector, or if it's not in the energy sector, whoever it might be, and let us know what's on your mind today. And if you're in the wells kind of industry, let us know what you do there. Your marketing team will love it when you're shouting about your company all over LinkedIn and multiple platforms. So remember, you have a chance to ask questions and put comments to our guests today. So today we will explore and unpack the very latest in the world of wells management. And we're going to be meeting with some really, really special people at the leading edge within our industry today. Coming up, I'm going to be spending some time with Nick Ford, the Managing Director at 360 Energy Wells UK. Hi to Terry, afternoon all, and hello from sunny Aberdeen. Brittany Uve is here, and I said it properly, Uve. Thank you very much for joining us, Brittany. After we meet with Nick Ford from 360 Energy Wells UK, we're going to go to our In the Spotlight section, Industry Spotlight, and we are going to be checking in with Willem Boone, Head of Wells from Elemental Energies, Donald Horsfall, Group Director of Business Development and Sales at Expro, and we're going to be meeting James Richards, Well Abandonment Director at WellSafe. We've got a great show ahead. Don't forget, as a viewer, you have the chance to do something special. The best comment or question put to our guest today wins, and we have a very, very, very serious judging panel checking this out. Our production team in the wings checking this out. The best, the most insightful, the best question or comment wins a free half page in a future edition of OGV Energy Magazine. That can be a piece of editorial, that can be an advert, whatever it is, and we'll put you in touch with Dan Hyland to get that sorted out. So keep the questions and comments coming, please. Now, let's get this show on the road. We're here to discuss wells, and that's what we'll do. How we manage wells is becoming, hugely important. It's always been hugely important, with an operating stock of over 2,500 wells, and the conversation now including all of the elements of decommissioning, CCUS, geothermal. The topic is as relevant, if not more so than ever before. To examine all of this in more detail and put this in the perspective of the modern energy mix, please welcome our first guests. Number one is Carlo Procaccini, the Chief Technical Officer at NSTA. Carlo, it is good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Eric. Excellent to be here.
Oh, thank you very much. And we've also got Carlo's colleague, Ross Sagan-Taylor, Offshore Wells Advisor at the NSTA, joining us as well. How are you doing, Ross?
Very well, thank you, Eric. Thanks for the invite along. Looking forward
absolutely.
to the show.
It's going to be fantastic. We've already got some lovely people from around the world joining us today. Remember, and do exactly. We've got. Let's take an example. We've got Prasanth Rajan from Energen Solutions from sunny London. Looking forward to seeing a great show. Welcome, Prasanth. We've got Colin Ballantyne here from sunny Aberdeen. Look at this. We have Tracy Mossman in from Nova Scotia. Look at the power of the internet. It's absolutely brilliant. Independent drill and engineering consultant. Isn't that wonderful? Michael has joined us from Louisiana, Gulf of Mexico. Welcome, Michael. Great to see you. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Carla, I'm going to put you where you belong. You should be up here. There you go. That's much better. That is absolutely much better. Gentlemen, great to have you with us. Carlo, if I may, I'm going to start with you. The NSTA, the role in the energy mix, could you just remind us what the NSTA's purpose is and what you do?
Yes, North Sea Transition Authority We are the regulators for oil and gas in the UK, and carbon storage, transportation and storage part offshore. And recently, we've been also given authority over offshore hydrogen transportation and storage part. We have fundamentally 3 core objectives. And we work with the industry, and we regulate the industry, but we also influence the industry in many ways. The first objective is security of supply and enhancing the domestic hydrocarbon production. That is the lowest carbon footprint option that the UK has.
Right.
Emission reduction, continuous emission reduction of our offshore production. So promoting reduction of flaring and venting and emissions due to power generation. And then last but not least, accelerating the net zero transition through the levers of carbon storage, collaboration with offshore wind power, and in the future also hydrogen.
Very good. That's very succinct. And Ross, what is your specific role? Offshore Well Advisor, I think, is the title.
So it's that's the title, and I am mainly focusing on the hydrocarbon industry. We are looking at new wells and well intervention and keeping well activity at a high level in the UKCS. And I also support Carlo on carbon capture storage and a bit of the hydrogen work that's currently ongoing, which is really exciting because we're in the early days.
Very good, very good. Yeah, we've had a few specific hydrogen CCUS shows, and they always go down absolutely well because it's that fusion of academia, science, chemistry, and industry. I think is absolutely wonderful, and our audience absolutely love it. Thank you for that, Ross. Carlo, could you give us? I mean, you've been in the industry. I would say for many years, without being insulting. You've been around for quite a while.
For quite a time.
Quite a time, absolutely. Could you give us a sort of a position in your mind, if not a state of the nation kind of position on the topic of wells management in the UK as it stands today, and what you've seen transform over the years?
No, absolutely. And well, obviously, wells is one of the most fundamental topics we have to deal with in oil and gas production. And incidentally, that is going to be also a critical topic if you think about carbon storage as too. So, particularly related to security of supply, we have in the UK North Sea, we have a sizable opportunity of recovering reserves and resources that have already been discovered or even partially developed. For instance, we are sitting on 10 billion barrels of oil equivalent of reserves and resources that are certain, so to speak. And we might not actually be able to access these resources, forever, because obviously there is a risk that in the process of developing, actually some of the infrastructure might be decommissioned before we can actually get to those those hydrocarbons. So therefore, accelerating and sustaining well activity, both in the space of delivering new wells, whether they are new developments, but also most likely, at this stage, they will be in the place of infill, in the place of satellite field tiebacks, and also sustaining the health of our well stock is critical. And it's critical to actually getting our hands on the 10 billion barrels of equivalent of reserves and resources that I mentioned before. So that to me is the state of, is the objective. If you ask me then the question of how well are we doing in that space, I can tell you well activity is declining. And well activity has declined. We drilled less than 50 new wells in 2022. And signs are that the following years are actually be less than even that number. And that is an all low number compared to previous years. That is also
if you could put that in comparison to the heady years, what is the deficit?
The deficit is like 3-4 years early before COVID, so to speak. We were in the range of 100 wells per annum.
Right. Okay.
So it's a 50% reduction. Incidentally, I share with you a link to two publications that the NSTA updates every year. One is called the Reserves and Resource Report, where you will appreciate the opportunity.
A note to that. Can you just so that is and we'll also put this in the chat so that people can get an idea of what it is. Could you just explain what that document is there?
The document, the document that you have there is it really reports the hydrocarbon inventory as we understand of the UK North Sea, the production that has taken place the previous years, the reserves that we still have, the part that is developed, the resources, the contingent resources, and the yet to find. It's very, and how they break by oil and gas and different type of hydrocarbons and all the rest, and the regional spread. So that is one publication that I would recommend, and we have updated it at the end of last year. The other publication that I recommend the audience to look at is our Well Insights report, and I've given you the link as well.
That's running along the bottom of the screen right now. So I guess are these available on the NSTA website?
Yes, they are, and yeah, absolutely, they are available. And the Well Insights report will give all the trends that you asked about before, Eric. So how many wells were we drilling like 6-7 years ago versus last year? What is the forward curve? In new wells, we see a significant reduction in activity. But if we jump to well management, that is the other area and probably the topical area for today's show, as you call it. Then we have an operating well stock of short of 3,000 wells, and 37% of about 1,000 wells are shut in at the moment. And obviously that does not mean that all those wells is possible and economically feasible to reactivate, because many of them will be eventually abandoned. But there is obviously a question, how many of them could be reactivated if we had more activity in the space of well management? Just to show you that there might be a bias towards activity, cost, and economics. In the area of subsea wells, it's not 37% of the wells that are shut in, but it's 45%. Right. So it's obviously where companies perceive that there is a higher hurdle to access those wells, then these intervention jobs are not pursued necessarily. So that activity in well management has also declined, and you will find it in the Well Insight report. And we used to have over 50 million barrels of oil equivalent contributed through well intervention activities in previous years, but in 2022 we only had 40 million, and which is a reduction of 20%. So yeah, so all these details you'll find in the Well Insight report. Please get in touch with us for more information.
Very good. And I'm guessing, well, we don't have to guess, with that amount of slowdown and that amount of reduction, you're obviously seeing, and we're all experiencing slowdown impacts across the entire supply chain, rigs, all of that.
Absolutely. And I'll probably pass the bulletin point to Ross to go a little bit more in detail into what type of activity and where we see the opportunities at the technical level, but certainly at the business level, where the operators are not giving sufficient comfort to the supply chain to be present in the basin. This leads to rigs that move away, crews that move away. You have to count the number of subsea well intervention vessels and crews, and you're clearly seeing that the decline is now impacting the ability of operators to plan for their jobs. So yeah, absolutely, there is a knock-on effect there.
Thank you for that.
And
One second.
Sorry, Eric, I was just going to.
Yeah, carry on. I think we've got a little delay. You carry on, Ross.
Sorry, Eric, I was just going to say, just to add to Carlo's point there, if this supply chain keeps on dropping, we might be in danger of not being able to achieve our carbon capture and storage goals. And that's a major risk that I think we need to bring to the forecourt and start having a discussion about.
So we see this decline in traditional typical activity. We're ramping up, or the expectation is we're going to ramp up on newer ideas and new things. But the worry is, do we have the stock? Do we have the people? Do we have the competence?
Exactly.
Aye. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. We have Carlo and Ross with us for the next little while. Please, if you have any questions on what Carlo has just said, please drop a question for Carlo into the comments today. We'd love to hear from you, and we have these people live. Thanks for those who've joined in so far. Over to you now, Ross. Ross, thank you for that, Carlo. Ross, you are looking at the offshore wells kind of thing, kind of side of the business. Well intervention, new wells declining, real issue, and you've got some slides for us that you'd like to walk us through. Do you want me to put them up?
Yes, please, if you could put the first slide up, just to show the extent of what Carlo was talking about. He's a visualization that highlights it fantastically. On the left-hand side, I don't know if everyone can see that clearly.
Oh, yeah.
If not, we've got the years, we've got previous years activities versus average cost per barrel. And as you can see, in 2022, the number of jobs was down, the cost per barrel went up. And it's quite a significant drop from 3-4 years ago. This the data on the slide here is all from the insights report that we've just graphed it out, and we get the information from the UK stewardship survey. So if there's anybody from a UK operator here that hasn't filled in the stewardship survey, hurry up, because the deadline is coming close. So
Suddenly,
what I'd like to
suddenly a lot of our viewers left the show, I think, to go and fill out that form and fill out those.
I hope that's the reason. It's not because of all the depressing news.
No.
But I think there's some real key information and insights that we can get out of this. $9 to get an extra barrel of oil out is the cheapest way to get more oil out of a resource, rather out of the reserves, rather than drilling new wells, which are incredibly expensive. If we look at safeguarding, that's maintaining the same amount of production. Last year, from scale squeezes, we added an extra 10.5 million barrels, and the cost of that per job was £1.87. That is a phenomenal uplift for the money. You know, this well intervention activity is a great way to get more oil out of the ground, and it's cheaper. But maybe we need to think about how we're doing it. Is there a better way for us the hydrocarbon industry, to work? Do we need more collaboration? Do we need more data examples? Do people need to know what's out there? And that brings me on to my next slide. If you could bring that up for me, Eric.
I certainly can. Just give me 1 second.
No worries. That is perfect. And what we see here on the left, we've got new well activities. So pre-COVID, we were doing more jobs. We were drilling more wells than what we had planned in the UKCS. Post-COVID, we've had a drop. The attainment rate at the moment is about 60% from what an operator says they'll do in the year to what they actually do. And what myself and my colleague are doing is we're setting up some new well stewardship to go into operators to speak to them about well attainment rate, intervention opportunities, and see if we can find a way to bring activity up in the basin. And that's the real part of my job that I love, is I get to go out, I get to speak to the operators, I get to speak to service companies and find solutions to problems. As Carlos highlighted, subsea well intervention is very low. There's a lot of shut-in wells. Can we work together to find a way to make that problem? So the sorry, Søren, let me. You said the increase was $9, but you.
Yeah, someone's dropped a question, and it's Soren Weiss Hartman. You said that you can increase production with USD $9, but can you keep doing that? So at one stage you'll have to drill a new production well. How do you determine the point where it pays to drill a new well?
I mean, that's down to the operator. That's at the operator financial levels. That's not for me to comment on. I'm only commenting on the results from the survey, and this year's survey is currently being filled out. So we'll see what the results are. Was it a blip?
Yeah,
what I guess, may I say something? What I guess, in maybe an answer to that question, and I apologize if that is perhaps not the answer not the perfect answer, is that we don't see that there is an economic barrier today on adding more well intervention jobs or drilling more wells. The economics are there. There is still an opportunity. Some operators told us, yeah, even if the cost of the reserves that we restore through intervention were to be up to $20 per barrel, would still make a lot of sense from a point of view. So we said, well, you have a $9 per barrel opportunity, but even if it was 20, the operator said, actually it would still make perfect economic sense. But the questions are other questions. Sometimes they are logistics. Now access to supply chain starts becoming another question. We cannot find the crews. Yeah, because you could not commit to the to actual contracts before, right? So it's a little bit of self-fulfilling prophecy here, right? And then also it's also the ability to access the platforms that might have a backlog of maintenance. So there is also competition for bed space. There is also competition for deck space. And so there are a number of other things, but all these things can be addressed through better planning of the operators and better planning together with the supply chain. Take some technical solutions to intervene, having a low footprint in terms of the intervention spreads that we use. So let's say there are a number of other things, but certainly from an economic standpoint, there is clarity. There are economically viable resources and reserves that we can unlock through well management.
Very
no
good.
question.
Thank you for that. And thank you to Soren for your question. That certainly got the guys thinking and talking. Ross, you're saying you're going out and you're engaging with the operators and you absolutely love it. What are you particularly keen? How do these conversations go? What do you want to see the operators do more?
So what we want to see more of is open engagement with the supply chain. We want to see more intervention work, looking at there's three things. So it's engagement with the supply chain. Let's see if we can strengthen that. Engagement with other operators. Can we work together? Is there a chance for collaboration? If one operator has 2 subsea wells I want to look into and another operator has 2, can they work together, figure out a solution to get a vessel in to increase activity? And the third one, and I particularly think this is the most important, is looking at technology that's already available and new technology. I think we are in a really interesting, exciting place at the moment, and deploying new technology will be the way that we sustain activity in the UKCS. So that's the 3 things that I'd personally like to see, and I'm sure Carlo's got a couple of things as well.
I think you got it perfectly.
You got it perfect. Slam dunk. And
Slam dunk.
what is the general kind of reaction when you put these 3 favorites of yours or 3 suggestions? What is the general kind of reaction from the operator community?
So far, they've been very, very positive. We're on a campaign to meet with all of the operators in the UKCS. That's about 27. We've started off with the first few rounds, and all of our conversations have been positive, and people see the value in the UKCS. There's a lot of reserves and resources out there. There's a lot of reserves that are in shut-in wells, and operators see it. But as Carlos said, it's not always a case that we can get in to do well intervention work. And that's what we need to maintain and balance.
Very good, very good. You mentioned earlier your stewardship efforts, and you've launched these well stewardship efforts. Could you walk us through the sort of structure of those and what their intent is?
So we have we normally write to the director of the New Ventures Directorate that me and Carlo sit in will write to the CEO of the company requesting that we have some sort of formal engagement. This is through a tier meeting. Myself and the senior wells advisor will then go into the operator. We'll sit down with their wells team and we'll produce a slide. And the slide format is pretty standard. We show them the reserves and resources they've got, their activity, and shut-in wells. We talk through the reserves and resources. Is there a particular reason that is there a field that isn't performing? We discuss that. Then we go on to the activity levels. As we say, at the moment we're seeing 60% activity. Is there a reason for that? We try and get to the bottom of that, see if we can pick that up a little bit. Our projects no longer economically viable, therefore we can take them off the survey, or are there new projects that we can add on? And then finally we get to the section I like the most, and that's the shut-in wells. And there's three things we want to know for your shut-in wells. Are there remaining resources? Is the well going to be used for something else? Or has the well finished and it now needs plug and abandoning? And we go through and we try and discuss the strategies on a well by well level. As you can appreciate, that takes a long time. So these meetings are normally one to 2 hours long. So if you're in the wells team for a UK operator and we haven't been to see you, try and keep a bit of time in your diary free, because we'll be coming
soon. I'm only interested, this is just a question I've come up with. When you're sitting with all these operators, how do you people at the top of your game, in the position that you're in, overseeing all of this, how do you keep yourselves abreast of the latest thinking and technology and innovation, perhaps within the supply chain? And is there a crossover point there? I know you can't be seen to be favouring particular things, but how do you keep yourself abreast of all of that, and what's the mechanism for it?
We maintain a continuous dialogue with the supply chain, and not just in well intervention, also in other areas of oil and gas activities, and now also CCS, for instance, which is very important new field. So we listen to the supply chain, and we keep monitoring. For us, very important, the introduction of new technologies in the field, the first deployments of first, second, can say the first few deployments. And just as I say, we see in well intervention, particularly well intervention, is one of the most active areas in terms of innovation, because actually in necessity is the mother of all invention. So we know that we want to make it accessible, but at the same time effective, and lower, let's say, the cost and logistical barriers. So we see like a host of retrofit technologies going into to remediate for failed equipment in the wells. We see a host of efficient rigs be deployable on top sites to offset the issues of footprint requirements, loads, and perhaps the platform rig that is not working, and stuff like that. So and so it's really the result of innovation. I have to say, actually, operators. It's difficult to actually be better than operators at knowing that, but we maintain our dialogue with the supply chain. When we don't see things used, we prompt operators for thinking a little bit more out of the box and engaging the suppliers. We cannot pick winners, you said, Eric, but we don't pick winners. We just make the conversations happen. It's the operators that select eventually the technology that is used. It's not us for them. I want to mention one very, very quickly, two things. Ross said before, we approach the leadership of the companies, the managing director, because we want to have a conversation with their wells teams. Automatically, that makes the wells team feel more empowered to have the right conversations with us. Because it's obviously that there is a point where the old wells team wants more budget to do good work, yeah? And that is on the good on a good cycle. And then what we are planning for the second quarter of this year, or maybe slightly after that, will be a supply chain engagement on the topic of well management, hackathons and seminars of that sort, where we bring the operators that Ross and his colleagues talk to together with the supply chain and say, okay, fine, we now understand, we all understand there is a huge opportunity here. Now, what are the right tools to go after the more challenging areas? Yeah.
Are these already advertised yet, or are the dates still?
No, because the flow is that we went through with a couple of operators to pilot the approach. That's already done. We did it in December and January. Now, as Ross mentioned, we are going to the other operators yeah,
Right.
to cover maybe 80-90% of the well stock. Yeah, so you imagine about a dozen of other operators, and then after that we plan for the supply chain engagement.
Very good, very good. Ross, you got anything?
Eric, yeah, I was just going to add to that the way we keep abreast of technology, it's actually through the classic conference system.
Right.
You know, Aberdeen hosts a lot of good conferences every year, and I try to get to as many of them as I can. Carlo is at a lot of conferences. So if you're in Aberdeen and you see us at a conference, please come and have a conversation with us if you've got anything to talk about. You know, just because we're in a new digital world doesn't mean that the old having a chat at a conference over a cup of coffee is dead. And also through new, you know, through social media, through events like this, we always keep an eye out for new technologies on the internet and the conferences. So we're a fully embraced team, really.
Very good, very good. And I'm sure you wouldn't turn down a cup of coffee and a tour down around some facilities with some supply chain contributor that had some new tech they wanted to show you.
Yeah,
absolutely. We more than up for
Fabulous, fabulous. I love that. Gentlemen, we're coming towards the end of our time, but I thought I'd finish on your hopes for the future. What do you really want to see happen? Where do you think are going to be the areas that are going to, you know, get us back on top again? What do you see coming down the pipeline that we should be interested and excited about, that excites you?
I'll take, well, obviously, is to maintain leadership of the UK in the oil and gas space. You know, we have to think above and beyond the fact that perhaps on a global scale, our oil and gas production is now just a couple of percentages of the world production. That's not the point. But our technology and our know-how is still world leading. And we need to maintain that. We need to maintain the supply chain position and all that innovation that goes with that. And then there is energy transition. The fact that we are proving little by little, and obviously wind power started first, and now we are having carbon storage, and we will have hydrogen. We are proving that our offshore province is going to be really, really important in supporting the UK net zero energy transition, with all the capabilities, the resources, the renewable resources, and the space and the subsurface that our offshore province has. Yeah, so these are two very important things for me: technical leadership and net zero transition.
Very good, Ross.
And for me, I think there's still a lot of life left in the UKCS, and we're going to need more intervention. We're going to need new wells. Just to we are going to need oil and gas production past 2050. Experts have realised this, and Aberdeen is a key source for UK supply and knowledge and leadership, as Carlos says. So what I'm most looking forward to is the development in the oil space, reaching out into new in the CCS and hydrogen world. I think that's going to be a really exciting space.
Fabulous. We're going to leave it there. It's been a joy to be able to spend some time with you. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. And it's lovely to hear, you know, for all of our guests in the supply chain, keep a note. Maybe drop Ross or Carlo a little line. Keep an eye on the NST website for these engagement webinars, and just be careful what you wish for. You might be getting lots of invitation to come out and visit some facilities now that we've said it out loud. Okay,
we are delighted. Yeah,
you're absolutely delighted. Always great to have the NSTA join us. Thank you so much for giving up your time today. It's been a pleasure, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Absolutely
so much.
Brilliant. Thank you. Ta-ta. Wasn't that great? Absolutely fantastic to hear from the NSTA, and great to hear there's some real good engagement sessions coming down the pipeline. Thank you to Carlo, and thank you to Ross. We are going to head over now and spend some time with our front cover sponsor of the Wells Management edition of OGV Energy Magazine. We're going to check in with Nick Ford, Managing Director at 360 Energy Wells UK. Let me just check if I can get Nick on. Nick, great to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you very much, Eric.
It's great to have you with us. Interesting insight there from Carlo and Ross, eh?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, you know, there'll be a few of the elements that Carlo and Ross brought up that I'll come through probably in the discussion that we have, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so that we can place you geographically, where are you today?
I am in Great Yarmouth.
Great Yarmouth, absolutely. Where I think we met, or was it Norwich? Or yeah,
one or the other, I think. Yeah,
back in the day, absolutely.
Back in the
Nick,
day.
I thought we would start, for those who don't know that are maybe slightly further afield in the world, just a little bit of structure and focus and direction of 360 Energy, what it's all about.
Yeah, I guess from a 360 Energy perspective, we're quite a wide and diverse group with a variety of different service offerings, but really we're focused on asset lifecycle and engineering, and providing solutions to our customers wherever they might be in the globe. I think for people who've followed 360, they've probably seen that we've been on a acquisition and an organic growth journey, and probably most recently with the acquisition of Prime and FlexLife at the back end of the year. So we're on a growth journey, I think is what I'd describe it. From a wells perspective, Fraser Well Management as what we were acquired back in 2022. So we've been with the organisation now for nearly 2 years. It's been an exciting time for us. I think probably it's fair to say our track records between the two organisations really were very compatible. I think from the 360 perspective, they had the subsurface group, the duty hold and the ops group, and also the EPCC side. And from our side, we were very heavily UK wells focused, and particularly had the well operator services. And really, I think from an organisational perspective, what we were looking at was being able to offer, that outsourced well management, well operator, duty holder type services to our clients. From a wells perspective, we're really centered around Aberdeen, Great Yarmouth, and also we have bases in Norway, US, and Southeast Asia as well. So we're working across the entire well life cycle from exploration appraisal through to decommissioning as well. And really, what we're doing is providing solutions that add value to our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. You had a lovely article in this month's edition of the magazine. One thing that struck me, and I wanted you to see if we could possibly explain what that means on your terms. You talk about the term redefining the well management landscape. What does that mean for you? What does it mean for 360 Energy?
Yeah, I think it probably builds on a couple of themes that Carlo was talking around there, around the levels of activity that historically we've seen on the UKCS, and I think the graph where his graph of wells drilled, which is pretty much sloping down. I would say that probably as a well management industry, and others on here will probably comment as well around. We were probably very focused on offshore execution of well management projects, and really that's what we were interested in, was just purely getting involved in that offshore execution end of the business. And I think when you sort of start seeing the levels of activity drop that we've probably seen over the last decade, you need to start thinking about a different way and doing different things as well. So how do you work with your customers perhaps at an earlier stage to help them, to assist them to develop programs that meet some of the needs and some of the constraints that you have as an industry now? I would also say that probably post 2015, when you could do the outsourced well operatorship, we spent quite a bit of time and effort in positioning ourselves to become an outsourced well operator, and we built on that since then, delivering wells in the construction phase. Also, we moved on and did that in the production phase as well. So we're a production well operator, and really where we got to was we wanted to be able to be an outsourced solution for our clients across the entire life cycle. So we're also a pipeline operator as well for one of our clients. So a variety of different ways in which we work, and really just that focus on building a solid track record.
Very good, very good. You say in the article that the well space finds itself in transformation. How would you describe that transformation? What does it actually mean in practical terms for operators and us in the supply chain?
Yeah, I think that really goes back to what I just said there around Carlo's graph with the levels of activity, and I think probably we've gone through a downturn. We had COVID on the back of that, and I think that's had a massive effect on the well management landscape and also the offshore activity landscape. So I think that it really, I would say that if I look at our client bases, we've probably changed from it being the major, super major type style clients. We're getting more entrepreneurial, smaller clients coming into the basin who are looking for different things and have different needs in the service that we provide to them. So I would say that we're having to work in a variety of different ways. And I would say that if you look at, say, your larger operators, now they're looking at us packaging up discrete solutions for them, and that might be us working across a number of our different groups within the company, and they're looking for us to manage the entire process for them as a complete outsourced solution. You might also be looking at some of our smaller clients who are looking for us to manage their entire well drilling activity on their behalf as well. So a variety of different ways in which it has, but I think what it does point to is there's probably a higher reliance on the competence that's within the supply chain than probably what we've seen before.
Right, fair enough, fair enough. With this, you mentioned a new way of thinking, a kind of new way of doing and executing. Does that mean that you've had to dig deep and perhaps reshape and reconfigure your approach to your traditional business models? I mean, you've been around for a while. You've been involved in the well space for a while. Well, I mean that with a tip of the cap to you. The way that you used to work compared to the way that we have to work now, do you see a massive change there? Have you had to reshape?
Yeah, most definitely, and I think that as we talked around there, with the outsourcing, with the well operator type models, we as I said, we put quite a lot of time, effort into developing and positioning ourselves as a well operator, being able to change our traditional well management, project management service provision into doing things a little bit differently and taking those responsibilities and bringing those competencies into our organization rather than traditionally being into the operator type community. So I think we're seeing that. I think what we're also seeing is a lot more projects that we're delivering with, for example, our subsurface team. So looking at the P&A market, we are definitely seeing a lot more focus on P&A in the North Sea, and I think that's been a steady change, probably. I would say over the last 10 years, but more rapidly in the last 5 years. But we're seeing our clients come to us and look for integrated P&A type studies, whereby we're working with our subsurface teams and also with our wells group, whereby they're pretty much sitting next to each other, sharing information as they're working through projects and delivering that as pretty much an outsourced product for our clients. So yeah, it's very different. I think also what I would say is that there's a lot more international interest in the type of work and the way that which we work in the North Sea. And I think it was Carlo who mentioned that around, there is a draw away from the North Sea in the types of things that we provide. And you're seeing people wanting the best practices and the environmental stewardship levels that we have in the UK, and they're wanting that for their projects elsewhere in the world as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. I ask lots of people this question, and I'm fascinated by the answers because there's no right or wrong answer. But in terms of energy transition, what does energy transition mean for you and for 360 right now?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because I think if you go back to COVID, the industry that we were in was all of a sudden was the pariah. We weren't really that welcomed. I think probably as an industry we do a pretty poor job around telling people actually what we do and how we do it. So I think that's probably something that we've learned. In 2017, we set up an environmental committee, which is an employee-led environmental committee within the company. And really, what we were looking at is, documenting our emissions, and also looking at ways we could change what we do and how we work in the well space to reduce our overall footprint. So that's really what we do, and we've been implementing that over a number of years. I think also we had a good look at what we provide in terms of our services around how could we transition some of our traditional oil and gas knowledge and wisdom and bring that into the energy transition? So clearly for us, CCS is a massive growth area over probably the last couple of years, and also geothermal is an area that we've done a little bit of work in as well. So I think that's probably one of the biggest spaces that we're working in, is really the CCS and delivering. We've worked with a variety of operators, both on the license application, looking at risks in the wells that they have in the well stock and the reservoirs that they're looking at injecting CO2 into.
Very good, very good. I'm guessing as you progress in that business model, business approach change, looking more to new ways of thinking in a new energy future, I'm guessing now that you're probably looking at how to change it all up. You know, the integrated services models that we've kind of dabbled with before have to be taken seriously now, right? So the future for integrated services for you, what does that mean?
Yeah, so I think there's a variety of different things. You know, as I said in the overview of 360, we've got quite a lot of that skill set in house across a variety of different areas, and I think we've already talked around a couple of the projects that we're doing on a more integrated basis. And I think what we're seeing is that we're sorry, I'm just flashing over there to Soren's question. I think we're just looking at how a bit distracting there, but yeah. So how do we deliver those projects on a basis that reduces the overall management from our client's perspective, and really have our groups within 360 working together as a team and being able to, so that our clients aren't having to manage multiple companies and act as the gatekeeper and passing information between the various different organizations, where we can manage that in-house and have one contact point within a client and really be delivering packaged information back to our client and managing that internally.
Terrific, terrific. Soren has jumped the gun on my last question, and we're in perfect time. You talk about it's important for you to have that mix of serious veterans, a bit of salt and pepper on the side of the hair, no bad thing, with plenty of experience, mixing that up with young talent, academic talent, practical talent, whatever it might be. You see that as an important mix. Soren's questions kind of leading into that. How do we make sure that these young, talented people are leaving schools, colleges, universities, whatever it might be, and want to get into the well space, the wider oil and gas space? And as Soren's rightly pointed, there might be more of a draw to greener sectors. How do we ensure that we get good talent and the pick of good talent in this sector?
Yeah, I think that's a multi-layered, very complex question. I mean, you know, I think it starts from the outset really in making STEM subjects important to young people. And I think probably in the UK, we don't really see STEM as being massively important. So I think instantly you are in a position whereby you don't have so many people going into those engineering subjects as we would perhaps like in terms of a feedstock. I think you overlay that as well with the kind of the narrative that our industry has in terms of the oil and gas business. I think it makes it very difficult for us to recruit the right people in there. That said, I think if you can provide younger people with a meaningful and challenging work that rewards them both on a personal financial basis, I think the opportunities are there and the people are there. We just probably have to look in different areas. And I think it's quite interesting. Here's me as a 50-year-old guy talking around what young people want. And I think probably we don't do that very well in terms of, you know, actually listening to what young people want and hearing what they need. We always do that from an older person's perspective because that's the positions we find ourselves in. So I think we have to do a little bit more listening and really communicate with them around what the industry is and what it does and how it does it to get younger people into the industry. You know, we've had a graduate development program for a number of years now, and you know, we've got several going through the process at the moment. We put them offshore as part of the rig crew, and they get to learn the offshore lifestyle, culture, etc., etc. And then we develop them, but mentoring them with one of our I'll call them salt and peppers, and giving them that experience as well. So
you had to push, you had to push
sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant, brilliant insight into what you're doing and your perspectives. Soren's point was just keep in mind that the skills acquired in the oil and gas sector are future-proof. They're easily transferable across sectors, and he's absolutely spot on, right?
Yep, absolutely. And our engineers are doing exactly that, working across the energy transition and oil and gas at the moment. It keeps it interesting for everyone.
Very much so. Very much so. Nick, thank you so much for giving up some time today with us. In fact, I can't let this go. Andy and Angus Mackay has said, Soren, I think we need to be better explaining how the oil and gas industry is crucial to the energy transition and how oil and gas is required for more than just burning fossil fuels. Good point. Well made. Thank you very much. Yeah. And actually, maybe, explain the narrative a bit more and the wider global narrative.
Yeah.
Nick, thank you so much for taking some time with us today. I know you're a busy man. Thanks for joining us all the way from sunny Great Yarmouth. It looks as if you're having a better day than us here in Aberdeen. Always. Good luck to you. Ladies and gentlemen in our audience, if you liked what you heard and you'd like to extend that conversation with Nick a little bit more, Nick Ford, Managing Director, 360 Energy Wells UK. You can track him down there, and he's a lovely chap. Thank you so much, Nick. It was a pleasure. See you soon.
Thank you, Eric. Bye-bye.
Tata. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We are going to be going to meet our industry spotlight guests in just a second. I have a few things to share with you just before we do that. From the OGV perspective, there are still 2 spaces left up for grabs at the OGV Pavilion at AOG Perth in Australia, 13th to 15th of March in Perth, Australia. Getting quick to snap these up. If you're already booked for that show and are looking for something really interesting to do, be sure and sign up for the OGV AOG Energy Golf and Networking Day at Joondalup. A brilliant course. Meet with lots of industry colleagues, have a great time, and have a fantastic setup and run into the AOG Energy Show. So 2 spaces left at the OGV Group Pavilion. I'm going to put up some captions here. If you'd like to know how to book either of those, you can get in touch with Andy Mackay at ogvenergy.co.uk or Dan Hyland at ogvenergy.co.uk, or simply dial that number and have a conversation about what you can do there. Let me just go to the next caption that I've got, just the last bit to share with you. Due to the amazing success of last year's event, which was round about the same time, OGV Energy are going to be rerunning the recruitment fair in Aberdeen, the 2024 OGV Energy Recruitment Fair at the Sandman's Signature Hotel. If you would like to join in with the many exhibitors that are going to be there, some fantastic names, and join in to meet the very best in talent that's looking to graduate or change jobs, Sandman Hotel, 27th to the 3rd. Get in touch with either Andy or Dan, and they can sort you out with all the stand details and all of that. But it's a fantastic and extremely well-attended event with amazing conversations with amazing people, connecting people. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much for that. I'll just put that caption off. Let me see. There we go. We are moving into the last section of our show. I'm going to bring in our last 3 guests. Some would say the main event. I'm going to check in with Willem Boone from Elemental Energies. Hello, Willem. How are you doing?
Hello, Rick.
Good to see you. We are also going to welcome Donald Horsfall from Expro. How are you doing, Donald?
Very good, Eric. Thanks for having us.
Good stuff. And last but not least, we have James Richards from WellSafe. How are you doing, James? We have lost your mic, James. We've lost your mic. Can we get you back? Let's have James do a little bit of jiggery pokery with his settings. We could hear him earlier on.
I think that's me back, perhaps.
You're back. It's wonderful to have you.
I was saying thank you very much for inviting us. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to start with Willem, because Willem, the last time we saw you, there was a different company name after this, and I would like to explore that a little bit more. But from a more generalist perspective, I think you guys were all in the green room listening to Carlo and Ross from NSTA. Any takeaways from that? Any interest?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me was around one of the last things you were talking about, and resources and recruitment and getting new blood into the industry. I think that's certainly one of the biggest challenges we see from our perspective. Obviously, clearly focused on P&A, but the amount of work that is coming through that needs to happen, and we hear a lot about that. It's absolutely huge, and I think one of the biggest challenges we're going to have is getting resources into that, and certainly we see that, and we spend a lot of time talking and focusing on that. So yeah, really interesting to hear some of the different thoughts and opinions on that from Nick as well.
Yeah, very good, very good. Thanks for that. Willem, and Donald, any thoughts on what you've heard previously?
For me, Nick mentioned the level of decommissioning activities that is sort of increasing year on year, and the last couple of years, people have mentioned the next 10 years as the golden era of well decommissioning, and I think Keith at the NSGA has called it the bow wave of P&A activities in the North Sea. What I have observed the last couple of years is that there's a new era of well project management requirements coming to the North Sea too, and I think that's where all the excitement will happen in the North Sea. Now there's just a shift in the approach of operators, how they're going to manage their aging well stock, and well project management is where the executions will be managed from and by.
Very good, thank you. Donald, were you busy typing emails there, inviting the NSTA to your base in Aberdeen?
I was indeed, Eric. No, just I guess takeaway, obviously interesting me. Carlo mentioned surety of supply, which I agree with, and kind of blending into kind of what Willem said there. I think the overarching project management competency will help that, but I think the surety of supply, again, I think Carlo mentioned, is actually more important than sometimes where we look at the integrated service offerings. I think, where we're looking to execute operations, within the UKCS, we've got to look at the specialist services and the surety of supply, and we're overarched with that project management piece. So it's an interesting landscape, for sure.
Very much so. Donald, James, we will hear from you in just a second. I'm going to scoot back to Willem. The last time we saw you, sir, you had a different company logo behind you. I'm not going to focus on that. I just want to focus on the new one. I guess if it's okay with you, the attraction to move from the operator to this exciting company, Elemental Energies, what was the driver?
For me, the main driver is that there's a shift in the industry, and I worked in well project management a little while ago, and with this new era of decommissioning coming up, to be part of a team that is sort of young, dynamic, and energetic. I'm the one with the gray hair and the beard, although I think calling it salt and pepper is nicer.
You like that, don't you?
Yeah, that's good.
I tried to bring in some comedy there. I said you had to push it, Nick, but I don't think Nick got the salt and pepper reference. But
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
And so for me and the people that know me know that I've been quite active with the SPE and with OG UK and all of those places. So for me, it's to be part of a team where I can help develop a younger team, manage, support, grow its organization, and sort of pass on what we've learned in the last 30 years and move it on to the next generation. I think that's an opportunity that you can't find everywhere. So it's just really exciting to be part of dare I say, a much younger team than I am. So I'm one of the old ones now, which is it's
terrifying.
I still struggle with that, but I am.
Yeah, absolutely. If just a bit of not self-promotion, a bit of elemental promotion. If you want an even deeper insight into where this company's going, please check out OGV Energy Live in person, a podcast that I did with the CEO of Elemental Energies earlier this month because we were doing wells management. Mike Adams, we can put a link to it in the chat after this, and it gives you the insight into the kind of spirit, excuse the pun, spirit and energy that's in this very exciting organization. However, right, you mentioned major projects, and in the magazine, the Elemental Energies article talks about the evolution of major projects. What does that mean to you, and what are you picking up already from the first few weeks and months in Elemental?
Well, it has definitely changed. I spent more than 15 years in Wells project management while I took my spiritual break in the industry, so to speak.
I like it. Well done.
And now that I'm back 10 years on, how you would describe a major project has some elements are still the same, but others are dramatically different. When I joined Well project management a little while ago, it was the rig share agreements that we talk about today for decommissioning were started then. But then it was all about creating opportunities for smaller exploration companies to drill exploration and appraisal wells. Well, that's gone. And now in Norway, there is a revival of exploration and appraisal activities, but that may come back, but maybe not. The change from exploration project management is now firmly into the camp of decommissioning, and the North Sea activities are going to be dominated by decommissioning for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
If only we would drill more wells and we would do more interventions, like what the guys were saying earlier, but from the major capital spend will not be on info wells, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's very exciting about Elemental is the focus on the future and how new technology, IT, AI, even for instance, the headline for it in the article is matching the digital curve. What does that mean to you, given the fact that you had a very traditional and typical upbringing and you've traveled with this digital curve all the way through to today? And what does it mean for Elemental?
I think what I've noticed is that the last 7 years I've spent an awful lot of time, not a lot. I spent a significant amount of time with technology development, both in the digital environment and in the hardware. But when it comes to well construction or decommissioning activities, there is not an awful lot of new technology. We are getting better with what we do, but no material changes. On the IT space, things have moved on dramatically. I remember developing our first web-based project management system for international collaboration. That's sort of been blitzed by SharePoint and modern platforms. And so I think where IT works is in our collaboration space and how we data mine end of well reports from 20 years ago, where with our aging population and the reduced population that works in the industry, we do rely on AI to do the groundwork that drilling engineers used to do. But so we're in a good space where that new technology will replace the data mining that I did when I was a bit younger. It's and if now that I mentioned the collaboration, if you would ask me with the reduction of equipment availability, reduction of resources, longer term relationships and collaboration and agility in the ways we work is absolutely critical. And I think that's where some of the new technology develops now, collaboration in data sharing, data mining, project management, that all needs to be on the interweb, so to speak. I'm sure it has a more modern name than the interweb, but people work from home, people work in remote locations. Sometimes the expertise that you need access to on that particular day is not available in your office. And where we work these days, AI and internet technology provides the perfect platform to let us sort of have access to the same experience, but from a far wider resource pool that doesn't necessarily work in the same office.
Very good. We are going to leave it there with you for now, but let's, given the fact that you're just fresh in the door at Elemental, we're going to make a check-in with you maybe in 6 months' time and see how you're doing and see what how your thinking has unfolded with the team. Thank you, Willem. Excellent stuff. Donald, can I come to you next? Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Very good. So, Group Business Development Director, Director of Group Business Development and Sales. Funny story, or maybe not funny story. Expro. It's a brand that just, if you're in this space, particularly if you've been in Scotland, clearly further afield and globally, you can't not know Expro. I think genuinely the very first day that I stepped onto a drilling rig in 1990, I travelled out there with Expro people and saw Expro coveralls and Expro units, and ended up having to run in supplies to Expro units, and did that for many, many years. Expro is a name that we all know. I guess my question is, do we understand it? And we'll come to that in a second. So I guess from my knowledge, the company must be around about 45, 50 years old, right?
Correct, yeah. So, yeah, I guess for us, formed 1973, so we've just turned 50 from Expo, and obviously we date back to 1930s now with the merger with Franks International. So great heritage going a long way back.
Yeah, absolutely. And you personally have been with Expro for about 17 years, right? A long chunk of your life. From the first few years to today, what is the biggest evolution in thinking and practice in the well services space that you've noticed, if you could home it down to one big thumping thing?
It's a good point. I'm just looking at now, and the salt and pepper comment, and reflecting on Willem's points. I didn't put myself in that category, but maybe I do. I think we were trailblazing when I started. So I looked actually online who was joining this call earlier, and it's great to see some of my old colleagues, managers, and that saw me as a trainee offshore as a well tester. So we were trailblazing in exploration appraisal. In those days, what we called, true well test. It was all around control of the well, measurement of the well, data was everything, and making these big decisions around these big fields for field development in the North Sea and internationally. So, we were known for well tests, subsea and slickline, but with the industry and with the movement, we've changed significantly. We merged, as I mentioned, with Franks International. That added a huge well construction portfolio, new technology, new offerings. So now really we are a full life cycle well services company. And yeah, it's exciting to support, huge element development. The team have already mentioned brownfield, decom, COP. So we've had to reshape, we've had to adjust, we've had to add technology. The team have mentioned unlocking barrels. I think for anyone on today's session, hopefully you've seen Expo's change from a slickline organization in that sense to a well intervention and integrity organization. We've invested a huge amount in these technologies.
Very good, very good. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Nick, because I'd like to get it into once or twice in each show. If you were to ask the people at Expro, what does energy transition mean for Expro? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, Eric, the honest answer is pretty simple. I mean, yes, we're involved in the energy trilemma, but as is James, as is Willem, as is yourself. So for us, energy security is number one. So from our perspective, people understand our portfolio. We're heavily invested in that. So, we've kicked off some, massive project with E&I in Congo, where we're doing pre-treatment for LNG gas, for domestic gas to power within the country, and obviously gas export for LNG. So these are projects that maybe people in the UKCS don't see, but internationally, energy security is that, and also fast track, hydrocarbon recovery in Guyana, so involved in projects there internationally. So the trilemma is important, and energy security there. Within our core business, it's obviously decarbonisation and emissions reduction. So people have seen we've invested in solar technology, AI technology in our well intervention group. I'm proud to say we're fully commercial with our ITONG technology, so we can run TRS technology from shore. We don't need people on the rig. So going back to Carlo's point, bed space, deck space, love that phrase. Yeah, we're listening. We are trying to obviously reduce those bed spaces, reduce that. And obviously, yeah, it was touched on earlier. We're ready for CCUS. We're investing heavily in, what portfolio is ready for it, what may need adjustments. And I think we're very well set up for CCUS. Geothermal, we're active. So energy security, decarbonisation, emissions reduction, and be ready for what's next.
On that, what's next? 50 years in business, very successful organization, thousands and thousands of employees all over the world. You're saying the merger with Frank's takes you back to the 1930s. Incredible history. What is the next 51? Rubbish question, by the way, and I'm sorry for putting it to you. What does the next 51 years look like for Expro? Where is all this going? Where do we take this?
I think it has to go back to, obviously in the chat, the question was around talent. So that's where it has to go. We have over 8,000 employees now. So this company only survives through talent coming in from the bottom. We're a grassroots company. I was lucky I started as a trainee offshore.
Right.
A few years after you, Eric, on the rig that you were on. But
How dare you?
From there, so yeah, we need to get talent in. We need to retain that talent, and we need to show them that peak energy demand is ages away. I'm not going to get into the analytics of Rystad, McKinsey, Forbes, but we know it's in the future. And the skills we have, and we need to reflect on what we've done. We've gone from running hydraulic systems to electro-hydraulic systems to now going fully electrified. And then we're going to go to robotic and AI. So we will do it. We are going there. The history shows us that this industry is amazingly resilient at implementing new technology, doing it very well. And it's the people that were in it 10 years ago have done it today and will do it tomorrow. So that talent pipeline needs to come through. And they are the future, and they are the ones that will take us through with AI and implementing, subsea robots and all the stuff there. So
things we haven't even thought about yet. Yeah, absolutely. Outstanding. Thank you for that wee bit of insight into what Expro is today. Donald, thanks for that. James, I'm going to come to you, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
We talk about 6 degrees of separation. I saw a beautiful post. I don't know if it was from one of the crew or if it was from WellSafe Solutions company post, but I spent 10 years on the Ocean Guardian. I was the rig electrician on the Ocean Guardian. And every day when I went to the control room, I used to pat the Sea Explorer sign that was recently polished and made about it. And someone took it off because it used to be all verdigris, kind of green, had marine growth on it. And someone has restored it back to its former glory and I think put it back in place. And I think that's just an absolutely beautiful thing to do. I sort of, particularly with what you've done for the Guardian, but an eye on the future, but also a little sort of pat on the head to the past and the history. I thought that was lovely, a lovely thing to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have a strong affection for the Guardian and for the what was the World Phoenix and is now the Defender, the WellSafe Defender. I think kind of workhorses of the North Sea, and it's amazing how many people must have worked on those assets.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. We read with interest in this issue of the magazine about your first saturation dive at Buchan on well decommissioning. Can you tell us a wee bit more about that? It's quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big milestone for us. Clearly, there's been a lot of work and planning in the background to kind of get to that point. So, kind of realization of a kind of 5-6 years worth of work for most of the company, really. It was a vision, I suppose, right from when the first company was first started, that we'd be able to take the capabilities of an LWIV and put them on a semi-submersible. So yeah, from that point of view, that's absolutely huge. And I think really what's exciting is now what that allows us to do. So we're busy on the Buchan field at the moment, as you say, and the divers have been installing stab plates onto. These are old trees. Quite a lot of people familiar with Buchan, they'll know that these are old trees, and we're having to replumb all the hydraulics, install stab plates, and that's work that only divers can do. You can't have an ROV do that. So having the capability to have divers out there, having an intervention system on the rig that we can then run onto the trees, but having all of those capabilities from a moored semi-sub is brilliant. So yeah, kind of a big milestone, and kind of excited to kind of use it more and more over the coming months.
Quite right too. The future of P&A, where does this all take you next? You're a thrusting organisation that's looking at the next iteration, innovation, tech, doing things differently. What does the future of P&A look like from a WellSafe perspective?
Yeah, I think putting the dive spread onto the Guardian is, I guess that's a really good example of kind of the mindset, I suppose, that we have. P&A is different, and it's really about trying to use the right tools and technology for the job. So I think having these rigs going and doing P&A. They're older rigs, but these are the rigs that drilled a lot of the wells that they're now abandoning. So, you know, technology is great, and there's, you know, you can get fancy kind of DP rigs out there, but that's not necessarily the right tool for the job for these older wells. Where there are kind of tools and technologies that could be applied, we're definitely keen on looking at that. And I think some of the things that we're looking at the moment are, you know, lightweight BOPs. Yeah, we know that a lot of these wells, weak well heads, and how do you address those? Tethering becoming more and more common. It's not something we really talked about kind of 10 or 15 years ago so much, and now it's kind of everyone knows about it. But yeah, if you can use a lighter weight BOP, is that a good way forward? You know, questioning and challenging some of what is kind of the drilling mentality that you know, understandably this business has, and kind of coming back and revisiting that and saying, is that for P&A? Is that what the right answer is? Is that what we need to be doing? So, you know, is it right to have a 15K 5-ram stack for these wells? Probably not. So it's going back and revisiting that and having to think about you know, different ways of doing it. So yeah, lightweight BOPs, intervention systems, and then thinking about other assets as well. So, you know, when we come to platform P&A as well, it's, you know, obviously hydraulic workover units are kind of a big thing. That's something that we wouldn't have seen so much, and they've come on leaps and bounds as well. So I think we also see our position in that, in, you know, in certain cases being able to go and develop the right tools and technology, such as lightweight BOPs, dive systems on rigs, but in other situations being able to work with the supply chain to bring the right solutions in. So kind of putting us in a position where we can make sure we get the right tool for the job, rather than force fitting something onto something just because that's the tool we've got, or just because we want to use new technology for the sake of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking about new thinking, new tech, new ways of thinking. You recently discussed your foray into CCUS on Alexa Duncan. That must be quite exciting. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, having Alexa on the team is a strong addition for us. Yeah, she brings a lot of experience. And I think the CCUS thing is something that, you know, I think coming from P&A and that focus on P&A, it was asking how do we add value to the whole CCUS kind of emerging kind of business, I suppose. And I think, you know, there's a lot of overlap. And when we looked at it, clearly having a strong focus on subsurface, making sure that we're getting the kind of the isolation strategy right. That skills there is the same skill set that you need for looking at CCUS developments. Looking at legacy wells and evaluating old abandonments, again, that's something that, you know, it's been our bread and butter for the last 5 years, really. So being able to apply that to CCUS, and then, you know, abandoning some of these old troublesome wells. And I think there's quite a few operators out there who have these wells where they had the wellhead severed, for example, and they've now reviewed the barriers in these wells, and they need to isolate these CCUS zones, and having to work out ways to try and get back onto these wells. And, you know, huge challenges there, where finding the well is a challenge in itself, let alone getting onto it and then doing anything about it. So I think lots of overlap with CCUS, and being able to bring the skills and experience that we've got from P&A and apply that into the CCUS world. I think really CCUS was a natural step for us anyway, in that, you know, we are an energy transition company, and that's all, you know, that's what we're set up to do. Our shareholders are only interested in energy transition. P&A is obviously a huge part of that and a huge part of what we do, but yeah, CCUS fits really well with that portfolio as well. So yeah, it's a really good fit for us. So excited to see where that goes in
yeah, very much so. And we look forward to tracking it with you, and maybe having you back to tell us a bit more about it in the future. That would be
absolutely
excellent. Gentlemen, it's been fabulous to spend some time with you. It's ridiculous having 3 people like you on the screen for 20 minutes, but that's what we've got. We could do an hour each easily. Thank you so much for your insight. Willem Boone, Head of Wells, Elemental Energies, Group Director, Business Development and Sales, Donald Horsfall at Expro, James Richards, Well Abandonments Director at Well Safe Solutions. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to extend that conversation further, please reach out with these super chaps, connect with them and extend that conversation. But for now, gentlemen, we thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you again.
Thanks very much, all. Yeah. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you to the guys there for spending some time with us. We have reached the end of our show, and it's been a lovely show. We'd like to thank all of our guests today on well management. We are launching the new edition of OGV Energy Magazine, so keep your eyes peeled for the February edition. The Subsea edition always goes down well. We look forward to you joining us for the Subsea edition of the show later next month. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking part. It's an absolute joy to do the show, but it would be nothing without you guys. We are going to award today, just because some of these questions were absolutely excellent. This is how it goes. Our winner today for this question here is Soren Weiss-Hartmann. We're going to be in touch with Soren. Soren, you have won a half page in a future edition of OGV Energy Magazine, editorial or advert. So I hope that you enjoy that. We will be in touch. I'll put you in touch with Dan Hyland if he hasn't picked that up already. We are going to be back in February for the Subsea edition of the show. Remember those things I spoke about, AOG Energy in Australia, the recruitment fair, and the golf day in Australia as well. If you need to extend that conversation, get in touch with Andy or Dan. But for now, we thank you very much. I'm going to leave you with this. And it's been absolutely brilliant. So we will catch you again next time. Thank you.